Hi, I'm Christian de la Huerta, and we've been speaking about the different ways to experience the work and to access breathwork. So we've already spoken about sessions and workshops, and if you haven't had a chance to learn about those, I encourage you to go to soulfulpower.com and learn about those there. So today we're going to speak briefly about retreats, which are really it's my favorite part of the work that I do, because in the workshops, as transformational as they are, it's really just a one day. In a retreat, we are together for 3 days, sometimes 4 days. And we do multiple breathwork sessions. And so when you do the breathwork sessions back to back like that, it increases the power, it increases the depth of it. It's sort of like compounded interest. They build on top of each other. And in addition to that, by this time we've had being together in a very safe, sacred container, we have really given ourselves a chance to drop down all the guards, and so we go really deep. And what that allows is for people to really experience some profound transformations. I can't tell you how often people's lives have been changed in a weekend, and how often I've had people tell me, with all due respect to the psychotherapeutic process, which I do honor, but people often tell me, I've been going to therapy for 20 years, and my life has really been changed this weekend because nothing much had happened before that. So what we do in a retreat is we come together usually on an evening, perhaps a Thursday night. We begin the process of breaking the ice, having people facilitating the connecting at a deeper level, create the container, the safety of the container, the sacred container, which is what will hold us as we travel through the weekend, going deeper and deeper, and people giving themselves the gift of dropping in more deeply into their lives and into their pasts for the purpose of clearing it, for the purpose of removing all the ways that we have allowed ourselves to be held back from being fully who we are. So depending on the theme, there'll be a combination of teaching sessions, there'll be dialogue sessions, there'll be guided processes, there's some beautiful guided meditations. The themes are similar to the workshop, so sometimes we do work on relationships. So how do we do relationships consciously? If you're not in a relationship and would like to be, how do we identify the ways that we have been keeping love at bay, the ways that we have been subconsciously sabotaging our relationships from the get-go before we even get started by attracting the wrong partners, people who are in some way not a match. Or if we're doing work perhaps on personal empowerment, we'll start looking through the weekend at some of the ways, like what are our own personal patterns in terms of where we tend to sell out in our power. So in what type of situations are our own patterns? Is it perhaps in intimate, romantic, sexual relationships? Or do we tend to give our power away in connection to people in authority? Parents, bosses, ministers, that kind of thing? Is it perhaps in situations where our perception of survival is triggered? And so the combination of the weekend is both approaching it from a cognitive level so that we get deeper and deeper understandings of ourselves and our own patterns. And then the beauty of that is that we combine it with the breathwork, which bypasses the mind and accesses some of those areas of trauma and areas where we have suppressed ourselves and repressed our emotions. And so having triggered it through the dialogue and discussions, when we breathe daily, that's when the real opportunity for healing happens. And I'm talking profound healing. People that have experienced severe trauma, PTSD, sexual abuse, rape, loss of children, and all that stuff gets healed. And I understand that it sounds too good to be true. Believe me, even after 26 years of doing this work, there are times where I ask myself, is it possible that such profound healing can happen just by breathing? And yes, it's like there's no doubt in my mind, because not only have I experienced it, but I have witnessed more times than I could count. And the results are permanent. So like people's lives actually change. They're not just having a great high experience. Like it can be that, but it's much more than that. lives actually change, and patterns of behavior, these wounds that we've been carrying all of our lives, get healed permanently. And so, of course, that begins to have an impact on the way that we do all of our relationships. The way that we have been suppressing ourselves no longer is necessary. The way that we have been protecting ourselves, stuffing ourselves into small packages or little boxes out of fear of, not wanting to rock the boat too much, then those patterns are no longer necessary. When we go to the source of it and heal that. And so the net effect of it is that we free ourselves to be fully who we are. And so the other part of the retreats that are really beautiful and are really, really touching to me is the depth of connection that happens every single time between participants. Every single time without fail. Connections that then people will refer to as friends, as spiritual family for the rest of their lives. And that community continues to grow. People that are there for each other when facing difficult situations. People that we can call, and rather than call somebody who, with best of intentions, one of our friends is going to side with us and commiserate and kvetch, and how could that SOB do that to you, and that kind of thing, they're going to, with great compassion, with great open-heartedness, they're going to say, yes, well, I'm sorry that you're there again, and what was your role in it? How did you get into the situation again? What can you learn from it this time, so that you don't have to keep yourself repeating these cycles of behavior, and you can, jump off that merry-go-round of repetitive behavior cycles. So, whenever you can, gift yourself a weekend of a retreat. I promise you, you'll be so grateful to yourself for doing it. It'll change your life. So for more information about the other work, the other programs available, check soulfulpower.com and keep breathing.